Thank God for St. Thomas, because he's a character that always says what the rest of us really want to say. We have no idea where you're going, Jesus. Like, how can we know the way? I mean, we can barely navigate the complicated situations of this life. How are we supposed to find our way out of this world and into the world to come? Even as I was writing these words, sitting in my office, a man driving his car down Lincoln blew out a tire and ran into the curb and then pulled into the little drive right next to our parish center. And I opened the door just in time to see him get out of his car and just throw up his hands in exasperation. To his credit, I didn't hear a single nasty word come out of his mouth. But I mean, isn't this our experience of life? We're driving down the road, things are going well, we're doing what we're supposed to do, we're praying, we're fighting the good fight, and yet the unexpected hits us. And all we can do is kind of throw up our hands and surrender to the things that come our way. But it's not so much surrendering to the things that come our way. It's about surrendering to the one who allows things to come our way. And there's a big difference in that. Because to surrender to the circumstances of life is to allow those things to dominate our thoughts and our time and our energy. Sickness, while sometimes overwhelming, doesn't define us. It doesn't redefine who we are as a person. The loss of a job shouldn't determine our happiness and our joy. And yet so often that's what happens. These overwhelming experiences come our way and it shakes us to the core. And so we can begin to see all of life as something that's getting in the way of what we really want. It's like we're trying to build something, but God keeps sending us the wrong materials. Like, God, I'm trying to do something here. I'm really trying to build a life. I'm trying to build a life of devotion. I'm trying to build a life of faith. And these are the things that I need to do it, and you're not sending them to me. It's like ordering plywood from the Home Depot and they send you a crate of petunias. Like, I can't build with this. I want something else for my life, and you're not helping me to accomplish the project that I want to accomplish. And when we have that mentality, then the things that come our way, we reject, we push aside, because it's not what we want. It doesn't fit the plan that we have for our lives. But St. Peter, in that second reading, suggests something very different. This is what he says: let yourselves be built into a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Let yourselves be built. Not build yourselves, but let yourselves be built. Let God do the building. In other words, don't get angry if challenges come your way, but see them as the material that God is using in order to build something for you, to build a stronger faith, to build a firmer foundation, to create this more willing spirit who's open to what God is asking of us. This is the new way of looking at the challenges of life. Not as something that gets in the way of what we want to accomplish, but as something that the Lord is sending us in order to move us, to create something new in us. And all we have to do is really look at the apostles to see how this works. They moved from being a bunch of deserters at the Mount of Olives who locked themselves in the upper room to being these courageous and bold witnesses of Jesus in the world. The crucifixion was not in their plan. It was not in their plan of creating something new. It was not in the plan of redeeming the world. It's not what the Messiah was supposed to look like for them. It's not the model for planting a church that they had in mind. But God used it. He used their betrayal. He used their rejection He used their weakness and their cowardice in order to build something great, something far greater than they could have built on their own. And that building, that work that God has begun is not yet completed. And it won't be finished until eternity comes to earth. God wants to do with us what he did for the apostles. He wants to remove our betrayal. Better than that, God wants to even use our betrayal and our rejection and our weakness and our cowardice and replace it with boldness and new hope and new joy and a new promise. But we have to become, as St. Peter says, like living stones. Stones that have a place. Stones that serve a purpose, that hold something up so that it can provide protection or shelter to those who need it. But we're not dead stones. You know, Peter is very intentional about adding that adjective, living stones. Living stones, because we can't just say, God, just plug me in here. Just put me in this spot, surround me with mortar so that I don't have to move and I can just do my little thing in my little place and that will be enough. But that's not what Peter says. Living stones, stones that recognize that in order to keep this organism alive and moving, in order to allow this institution of the church to fit the signs of the times, that we have to be living stones. Stones that are alive with faith. Stones that are willing to move and to be reshaped in order to fit where we need to fit in our church today. And this is hard for us because I think it's very, very tempting for us to say, well, look, I'm doing my thing. Like I'm living faith, I've got my devotions, I'm going to mass, I'm in that space where God put me. But maybe the Lord is calling you to something else. Maybe the Lord wants you to shift spaces a little bit and open yourself to something new. The church is not some static structure. It's a living thing that wants to pull others into its life. But we can't be a part of that if we're too busy building our own thing. And so let's allow ourselves to be built into something by the Lord. First, so that we can have a purpose in the world and recognize that we play a role in bringing others to the Lord. Secondly, because there are people who need us as a defense against attacks that they're not strong enough to withstand. And thirdly, because this living building that we are a part of has eternal consequences, both for us and for the people around us. We can't build anything comparable to what God can build for us. And so let's put ourselves into the hands of God today, because our projects aren't working. And let's let God build something beautiful with and through us, both for us and for the world in which we live.